care am ajuns atunci și pot să vă mărturisesc acum cu 2 zile înainte de predică o țineam în fiecare miercuri din săptămână.
Și ne-am întors încet. A fost foarte dureroasă întoarcerea noastră, n-a fost
Between my first period of imprisonment and the second period, there was no difference. The torture, the brutality was the same. For instance, in 1980, I was very sick in the hospital prison Gila.
Yeah, so there was our little dialogue. And, and even Elder Cleopa, once said, if you really want to live a virtuous life, you just think that, the first thing you think when you wake up in the morning is one day I'm going to die. Right in the middle of the day, you think, one day I'm going to die. And right before you fall asleep, one day I'm going to die. But not in a morbid way. It changes your perspective. Like, am I going to really get upset because somebody cut me in traffic? Is it really worth at the end, mission focus, what I tell folks, right? Mission focus. So those were really defining moments and transforming moments. The God works through instruments who sends people to tell you exactly what you need at that point in time. And he keeps knocking, But sometimes we don't pay attention. And those words that you heard and some of the examples that I used in here earlier, do you think that they sort of got to me right away? Well, when the question for, are you ready? It did. That was like when you saw that silence, boom, it really took me like completely, shook my structures, for lack of a better term. It's important when somebody crosses our path, even if it is a stranger, ask the question. There are no such things as coincidences. Always ask the question, what is it that God is trying to tell me? Am I supposed to learn something from this experience, whatever it is. But anyhow, we already spoke at length about this. Most of what I'm going to do here is just, recapping chronologically some of the vignettes that I have already provided to you. We spoke about Nasha Adriana. He actually married her after he came to prison for the second time. And he really, he told me many times, if it wasn't for Adriana, I will probably be in a monastery. He really had that monastic inclination. He loved her, we respected her to the very end. And he told me he was not afraid to die, but he was afraid to leave Adriana behind. And I told him, oh, don't worry, we will take care of her, Father. Don't worry about that. And in many ways, I think that, I failed, in that mission. But anyhow, she has passed away as well. And Elder Justine said, if you think that Gheorghe is a holy man, Adriana is 10 times holier. Even the people that were coming to her home to visit her during the time that Father was to prison were taken to prison too, because they came to visit her. The humiliations that she endured, and in here, after they were granted political asylum, the secret police came in here and tried to kill them twice. They had to, in the US, they had to actually hide. Yeah. So anyhow, you see his face in there, sort of smiling. This is the cemetery in Petrovoda, the monastery of Petrovoda. You want to be buried in there is for most of the people that went to prison. And here we are, exactly today. We are commemorating his memory. And I'll tell you another curious fact. She's not in here today, but one of your parishioners, I put the, this icon was actually, it's from the monastery of Vatopedi, right? We are waiting to put the halo, like Father was saying. You see him here holding the 7 sermons that he delivered that got him in prison. And you can see also the striped prison uniform, right? And I put this in the back of the church. And one day somebody comes to me and says, I saw you putting this there and I took one home and I've been praying. And he's helping me. I don't even know who he is, who this person is, but he's helping me. Who is he? And I start talking to her, about him. And that's what I remember of him. And I'm sure that he's much more powerful now, right? He can, we should pray, asking just like if he was next to us, because he still exists in that, in that plan and in that space. One of the points that I have not mentioned to you earlier, when he was a child, he actually had a very interesting encounter. He went to the fields, and the entire field of wheat was completely overtaken by a very, very strong light. And he did not know at the time what to make of that. And he saw that a second time at the very same solitary prison that we saw in Jilava on Easter Day, that when one of the guards, that was one of the worst guards torturing him, came to prison on Easter Day to torture him. And knowing that, he looked at the guard and he said, Christos avia, Christ is risen. And the face of the guard, as he described, turned like a face of an angel. And the cell was filled with light. That pitch dark cell was completely flooded with light, uncreated light. And the guard actually was scared too. And he said, and he told Father, don't tell anybody, but I cannot not believe in God after seeing what I'm seeing here. After that, he never tortured Father again, but he told Father not to tell anybody. So those were the two, the very two experiences that he had. And he has no doubt in his mind that Archangel Michael, really kept him alive in there. And for the third time, Father Leonid was actually at the hospital with me when Father gave the last breath. And very few of us, even when we were reading the Psalms during the 2 weeks that the Father, was terminal in here of pancreatic cancer, we didn't need. You think that I'm exaggerating? Ask others that were in there. Father Leonid can witness to that. We didn't need artificial light in a room. And right before he passed away, his face started shining and like glowing. It not a natural light in any shape or form. But those are things that I actually didn't even talk about that until I heard Father Leonid, because I said I'm probably exhausted because I haven't gotten any sleep, right? And those times at the hospital, so that we don't keep just going back to Romania, there were thousands of people coming to the oncologic area in where Father was at the Fairfax Hospital. And I was extremely upset. I said, Father, you need your peace to die. Where were these people when you were cleaning the church alone, making candles, driving food to the poor? So I'm going to send everybody home. They're causing chaos. The police is here. It was total havoc at the hospital. Everybody want to get his blessing. I said, they had plenty of time to help you. I'm going to send everybody home. And he looked at me very calm and said, no, Maria, you need to remember the Easter service. Even for the ones that come in the last hour, there is hope. I said, no, ask them, tell them that I asked them to be orderly, not to cause any commotion, but let them come one by one. And he did not give his last breath until he blessed the last person who walked through that door. And trying to carry on a dialogue with them as well. So those were, just a couple of, experiences that were definitely not something from this, from this plane of existence, for lack of a better term. Yeah, we spoke a little bit about Radu Voda, right? Those are, this is him with his students. When he came out of prison for the first time, they did not let him go back to med school. He became a French professor at the seminary of Radu Voda. I actually went into the classroom. That's him there. And the the 7 sermons, the homilies that he actually released were preceding Easter, the 7 days before Easter. So once again, I will show you the link later on, but please do take the time to take a look at that. And we spoke about that. The message over there is really challenging materialism and atheism in general, right? And we see that coming in. And one of the sentences the Father used very, very commonly with me, especially when I used the word compromises with him, he said, "Be very careful, Maria. Compromise is like a crack in the windshield. The minute you start compromising a little bit, before you know, the entire structure is shredded, and you don't even know where it came from." So he said, once somebody comes in and tells you, "Let's compromise," the flag should raise right away. He said, "Be very careful." Yeah, and this is, if you look on top, this is how he started his sermon. So he started the first 2 sermons inside of the classroom. The folks from the seminary told him, "You cannot teach them in the classroom." You know what he did? He took it to the courtyard. I said, "Well, they didn't tell me that I couldn't do that in the courtyard." And then they told him they could not do that in the courtyard. You know what he did? He went even further out, and that's when people were coming from the outside, and they locked the gate so that people couldn't come in, and they were jumping over the walls to listen to him. But it was he knew that this would mean imprisonment and likely his death too. Yeah, so we spoke about that. I'm not going to I'm not going to go to details, but I will point out to you some of the scenes in here of the prison cells, the beatings and the tortures. I'm not going to emphasize too much on that. It is mostly what happened to him and how that has changed him. In fact, through the course of our exchange, I have seen Father angry only once when one of his colleagues that also went to prison with him. We met in Romania. Father wanted me to stop his chemotherapy. He said, "I need to go and say goodbye to my people." And this gentleman who suffered a lot as well, he said, "Well, this country owes us a lot, because we suffered for these people. Nobody spoke up, and we did." And it was the only time that I saw Father really angry. He said, "Nobody owes us anything." And in fact, when we try making that trade-off, what really happens is there is nothing that we can do that can measure up to the perfection of God, right? We are really saved by Christ, who has died on the cross, and that was the philosophy that Father taught me. And he said, in our lives, if we really build the Church of Christ inside of our hearts, every single action that we do, even when we sin, it doesn't mean that we are immune to sin, but we know where to come back to, right? And every action that should reflect, the presence of Christ in our hearts. So that was his philosophy. Just about the curious fact, one of the only times that I saw him, upset, he said, "Everything we have is a gift from God. We are just stewards of our money, of our time. And he gives it to us for our stewardship so that we can give back, to others." That's in parables, etc. But, how often we neglect and we think that those things are all, our own deeds and our own gifts. In 1989, when he was actually allowed to go back to Romania too. He was already, exercising his political asylum in here. And when he went back, there were, over 10,000 people that came to listen to him over there. And some, there are some sad events that I have yet to write about that happen even, when he want to go back and be buried over there, but that's for another time. We're gonna sort of celebrate his memory. It is him, President Reagan actually received him at the Oval Office. And that's him with Barbara Bush too, and Vice President Bush at the time. So really, he was. He didn't think that he was going to make it alive especially out of Jalaba. You saw that, and even when I was walking those steps, even though you know that everything is past, it gives a chill. You feel like really, oh my, that place doesn't even exist. Imagine when you know that you're going to walk to a place where you're not going to come out of anymore, right? Basically walk into your grave. That is an acatist. He hasn't been canonized yet. We do have a blessing to actually pray the acatist privately too. And the canonization process is in place. But we do have, I'll send that link to you as well. I think I've already provided that to Father, but what I want to show you, this is what is on Ancient Faith. That was my project last year with Frederica Matthews Green, with, and they are all here, and you can actually download. And I got Adrian from Saint Parashkeva in Yash. The soundtrack that you're going to see here is from a group, Byzantine group from where Saint Parashkeva is. You know that Saint Parashkeva has a very special place in my heart too. So you're going to have this link. The sermons are very, very short, and I encourage you to please listen to them. There is a message in there for everybody. And every time that I listen to it, I actually get a different, a different message, and depending upon the context. So we've already spoken about what he saw in the fields when he was, just a boy. The uncreated light that actually touched him, and just. For the record, if anybody came to Father George and told him that he was a holy person, he would get very upset. His humility, he said, don't even do that. Said, Rosana, don't let my body be exhumed or anything like this. And it did happen. It was exhumed and it was found incorrupted. And it was a huge scandal, and they had to bury the body again. It was found incorrupted and really with a very sweet fragrance. On and all, what we have done in here, and what I tried doing, is not only showing, you his life and the tortures. To me, believe it or not, what is more striking is the influence that he actually had, even outside of the borders of Romania. And why asylum? Because even political asylum was like another prison for him. And we don't realize that, because if somebody tells you, even to a kid, we cannot go to this room, go to the other room, the minute that you can't even go and visit the place that you were willing to lay down your life for, his love, it was it was so deep for the youth that he saw being completely corrupted at that time. And he did tell me, he said, Rosana, the political asylum, I'm most thankful, but it was another prison for me. And sometimes we take our freedom also for granted. The only book that Father actually published, it's out of press. I'm working to put it back on press. If you look in here, the course in catacomb pastorship is when you have to hide to pray. We need to really take advantage of this type of blessing, because Father George told me too. He said, Maria, times will come where you will have to hide to pray. And in prayer, there is no other way of connecting to people like this, of connecting spiritually, because in reality, everything that we are here is going to perish. Everything, consciousness, our spirit is the only thing that truly exists. So taking advantage of that, and every time, even when we are listening to a sermon, I was busy here and I was listening. Depending upon the context that we are going through, the message that comes is different. Even if you read the same thing, it has a different meaning to you. And I think that he wrote about priesthood, what priesthood really means. It describes not only his life, putting his own burdens and his own suffering behind the scenes and to help others, to reach out to others, but also the fact that we have that Good Samaritan in front of us as well. And how many times we turn our eyes off, right? Oh, I'm not going to look this. Why is this person? There was another pit peeve of mine too, with people coming in and asking for money when you stop, right? And I said, oh, Father, they're going to, use for drugs, whatever it is. He said, Rosana, not your problem. If you have it, you give it and you forget. Or a lot of people saying, oh, I give this money to church and they use it for something else. And he used to say, the minute you give, it's given. You forget, right? You don't think about how people, because whatever they do with it is between them and God. You don't want to be in between. And he used to, we used to laugh because he said, Maria, God's job is not, I didn't see an advertisement out there for God's job. Are you applying for it? setting, freely given, not expecting anything in return. That is who he was. And I hope that Good Samaritan, awakening that Good Samaritan within us, from time to time, at least, that is the key message that I would like to leave in here. And this is just a little depiction of the scenes from prison. My wonderful sisters from Diaconist. This is actually Father Gheorghe here, cutting his wrist to give blood to one of the prisoners that were dying. And when you see them, like skeletons in here, this is precisely how they were. And most of them actually died nameless. Not even their names we know. So please pray too. There is a canonization process going on in Romania too for the martyrs from prisons. I think recently they had one for Russia. We hear throughout history a lot of atrocities that happen, but most, unless you get to BBC, you're not going to hear on the news over here. They do a very good job of sort of depicting. Each one of them is actually explained in the book that we have in here too. This was the last message that Father left. I tried capturing here, and I released that actually the day that he actually passed away. For my flock, I leave these words: love one another as Jesus loved us, so that it will be revealed that we are the sons of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Sacrifice yourselves. Pray and be merciful to those in need. May the blessings of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God the Father, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be upon all of you. Amen. So this he did right before he passed away. I think that's the message that he would be relaying to you all. And he is here with us today, I'm sure. He loves people, and in our way, the only way that we have to connect to people, special people like this, is through prayer. And to connect to each other as well. This is him with Elder Cleopa. I don't know if you heard about Elder Cleopa before. It's a very classic picture. Three giants of the Orthodox faith. This is his mother. The roots of his Orthodox. He spoke always very highly of his mom. That's Nasha Adriana. That's my baptism. Look at this. It was a lifetime size tub inside of the church on Christmas Day, and it was like really everybody had a candle. It was absolutely wonderful. He was so happy, that day, and so it was. I think one of one of the very best times that I had. This was Nasha's 80th birthday too at church. So we used to, I used to organize those little things in the basement, and he used to absolutely love it. And the funny person that I mentioned to you, he's him making candles. That I took this picture, when coming out of the Pentagon and talking to him over there, with an apron, like a pink apron. He had fun with everything. This is at the embassy. This is a very famous basketball player. So you can see the contrast, right? This is him at the cave during our last visit to Romania, cave of St. Andrew. The St. Andrew actually went by foot in Romania. That's where St. Andrew used to sleep, in that cave. We went there. So this face that you see him laughing and smiling, that was his norm. You wouldn't see him complaining, and even the history that he was telling me and those things that I was capturing, it was just because I was forcing him. Because I said, Maria, you don't need to relive all those bad things. We need to recall so that they don't happen again. But don't get upset or anything like this, right? So we have. We have many other pictures in here. I'm going to pay tribute to Diaconist. Most of what you see documented in here. This is a monastery too. In Diaconist, they do a very good job. This is Sister Mina, a beautiful story. She passed away as well. A beautiful story. She went to prison too with tortures. We can talk about her another time. In fact, we should have actually a series. A series over here of, the contemporary giants of faith and get to know them, right? This is Ayud, what I told you that they used to throw the bones of the martyrs from prisons. This was, to the dogs. And that is a monument that was built in there. This is the prison I actually went to visit. The last prison is fully active. They wouldn't let me in. It's still completely active. The entire city of Ayud, Elder Justine told me that is a condemned city. The entire city was created to sustain the prison, during those times. So to me, that should be completely demolished. And this is an icon from the Diaconist, from the sisters that you saw in there too. Of the martyrs from prisons guarding, and this where the bones are, the fragrance of myrrh is so intense that your eyes burn when you walk. Is underneath of this monument in here, and the place where they used to throw the bodies is right next to it. And as you can see, the altar, it goes down just like Jilava, to sort of represent on the ground. This is a map with the gulas in Romania. Look at how many. And meanwhile, because of the horror that was spread in there, what happened is, the people that were inside of the houses, they wouldn't speak up. Most people that I speak with, they said, we didn't even know that this was happening. They didn't want to know, right? Because if you knew, you would be gone, or you would be taken over there as well. This is, Elder Justine. He was the abbot. He also passed away. He also went to prison. This is Father's grave in that small cemetery in Petrovoda. I'm actually planning a visit over there in Moldova. And this we already, we already went through, his journey over here, a little bit of the Holy Cross in Faust Church. The small church is still there. This is as breaking ground in St. Andrew, and just other, other pictures here, memories. This is our last visit to Romania, like I mentioned earlier, and it just sort of goes on with a couple of memories. He used to love children, baptisms. Absolutely his favorite service, always surrounded by youth, and many other memories in here too. So this is really, his passing is really the beginning right? It's the beginning for him, and it's been a privilege being here. Even in my quiet ways in the back, I see how wonderful this community has been. How faithful you are. I have enjoyed your traditions. I have enjoyed your prayer life. And I wish you my very best. I ask you to keep me in your prayers, to keep the glorification of the martyrs from prison in your prayers. Is not that they, deserve, that they should be glorified. To God, he knows who his saints are. He already, to me, I have, God forgive me. All the hierarchies forgive me. Who really makes saints? The people who have lived with them, who have walked with them, they know who they are, right? And I really, enjoy our journey here. And thank you very much for allowing me to struggle along your side and to putting up with me behind the scenes.